Hello everyone, Jester Bell here, and I finally got to see M3GAN, aka M3GAN, and it wasn't as good as people told me it was. I'm sorry. You guys have to have better standards. It was very much a B movie, which means it's not the worst thing ever, but it's not great either. So let's get into it. I'm not unhappy that I saw it. It definitely had some entertaining moments, and it was a shorter movie. I actually enjoyed that because some movies lately have just been like 3 or 4 hours long, it feels like. So just having a shorter morsel to watch and just enjoy myself, having a little time of escapism, it was good. It was all good. But let's talk about this movie. So M3GAN is about a robot. It's one of those classic robot horror stories, except it's PG-13, so it doesn't go too far. And it has the theme of don't substitute technology for parenting. That's the big theme of the movie, and it demonstrates that by having the aunt in the movie, who I think is played by Anna Kendrick. It seemed like her. It probably isn't. But anyway, she basically cannot parent her niece that she has come in custody of after the parents have died, and so she tries to use this robot creation of hers to substitute that, and obviously nasty things happen. So about this movie, I like the overall story, and I like what it's trying to do, but it didn't execute it well enough. The big thing about this movie is it's not a straight-up horror movie. It's a horror comedy. But unfortunately, neither of those elements went far enough for me. The horror wasn't scary at all. And I don't mean in that it wasn't bloody or gory enough. You can do plenty of horror movies without that stuff, believe it or not. But you have to build up the suspense and other elements in order to create a scare. And that was the big thing about this, is that the many jump scares that it tried to do were not scary. They were incredibly obvious. You knew what was coming and exactly when it was coming. And that's the exact opposite of what a jump scare should do. So throughout the movie, I wasn't scared at all. I just had no feeling of suspense whatsoever, and that should be the biggest problem with a horror movie. And of course, it's trying to also be a comedy, when while there were a couple of the jokes that got me to laugh or smile, honestly, sometimes it was just the ridiculousness of it. Like, there was a certain kill in the movie that actually got me to laugh just because of how crazy it was and how morbid one of the parts of the movie got. But the comedy was very hit or miss. I started to enjoy it more by the end, and I know it's subjective, but part of the reason why the comedy didn't hit is I felt that so many of the characters were cringe characters, that they were just embarrassing and that they just didn't feel real. And I mean that in a bad way, where it wasn't a cartoonish enough movie so that I couldn't take anything seriously and I just threw up my hands and enjoy it. But at the same time, the characters just weren't real enough for me to really invest in them or care at them. I thought that the lead aunt in the movie was just such an unlikable performance, and she was intentionally unlikable, but it was so unlikable and so vapid of a character that I didn't find myself sympathizing her with when I should. Now, there's some good setup and payoff in the film. They do the bare minimum of what you should in a story, especially a horror movie. They set things up and they pay off later. So they pay off how exactly M3GAN is going to be defeated. But in other cases with the writing, I didn't think that the resolution was strong enough. I think they needed to spend a little bit more time with the aunt resolving her problems with her niece, and they really didn't. When the resolution came a little earlier in the movie, it was very, very simple, and it really was not what they built up to. I think that stories about robots and technology that goes wrong can be very, very interesting, and then that's why they really had something here. And I really, actually, my favorite performance in the movie was from M3GAN herself and the little girl, and sort of that back and forth. But it should have gone darker and, dare I say it, a bit more psychological with that aspect, but it didn't. It was trying to be a dumb January horror movie. They probably suspected it wouldn't get so much money, but then it started to make a bit more than they expected, so it's getting a sequel. But there's certain aspects of the film where it's like I don't even understand M3GAN's motivations. Like, it seems that she's gone crazy to protect the child. Caitlin is her name, I think. And but then all of a sudden she turns on her too. I guess that's a mild spoiler, or sort of a spoiler, but and she kills certain people in the film where she has motivation for that, and other times she doesn't. And so it's confusing. Sometimes it's like things happen because just the story needed it to happen, or M3GAN needed to do something because the story needed it to. And if they had gotten into her character a little deeper, then I think it would have made a bit more sense. But it's supposed to be just a very dumb, simple movie that, once again, I think they just threw out there, not expecting anybody to like it. But honestly, this movie maybe is deserving of, like, I'll just compare it to the critics, maybe a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes at best. Like, it's better than expected for what it is. But 90% to almost 100%, really? This is not groundbreaking. Like, Alien, Psycho, those are the movies that deserve 100%, that just really blow the lid off of horror, at least in the era that they were made in. But M3GAN, it's a B movie. That's all it is. Maybe they're just relieved that it's just a funny B movie that doesn't want you to think too hard about it, and that we haven't been getting a lot of that lately, at least not on this level. I honestly wish that it had either gotten more scary and more psychological, or that it went so far into the camp it was just a completely fun ride, but it didn't go too far into either of those directions, so that's why I think it was very middle of the road. So that is my review of M3GAN. Hope she doesn't come to get me after this negative review. Did you see the movie? Do you just not go to the theater in January? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.